Sleep is a skill. This was my biggest takeaway from today's conversation with Dana Obelman. Her and I had this conversation back months and months and months ago, and I just think we can always get a good pep talk on why we need to sleep. Some of my clients come to me regardless if they have infants, toddlers, middle schoolers, adult children, teenagers, and sleep is one of those things that I would say personally in society gets a bad rap. It is so key to our health, not even our physical health of rest and recovery, but our mental health and our emotional health and our overall well-being in life. And yet we watch how culturally it's not really celebrated. It's kind of like, oh, must be nice, right? And I am here to change the conversation for women. I believe that feeling good is exactly what the world needs from us. The better we feel, the more time, money, energy, fulfillment we literally step into. That is exactly what we have been missing. So the conversation that Dana and I have talks a lot about sleep in general. And she has over, now we're getting close to, what did she say, 16 plus years in the sleep world. And I said, okay, are you 100% confident that if I threw any sleep situation at you, you would be able to handle it? She's like, Heather, I've seen it all. I've helped every kind of situation you could possibly think of. So if I was to invest in a sleep coach, Dana would be my go-to girl. So check her out, Sleepsense.net. She has been featured all over the news, all over television. Check out her podcast, Sleepsense, and also just go follow her. And if you are struggling with sleep, whether it's for you or your children, and you want additional support, go to sleepsense.net and don't delay. It is literally affecting every other aspect of your life. If it's that one thing that keeps you up at night, pun intended, solve the problem now. Because if you're not going to pay for it now, you're going to pay for it in the future. So let's dive into today's conversation. And remember, I want to hear from you. Screenshot this episode, tag me at Heather Chauvet, tag Sleepsense as well on Instagram, and send me a DM or text message, 313-710-5199. What did you gain from today's conversation? And more importantly, what action are you taking to change the conversation around sleep? I believe anything is possible when we're willing to become obsessed with it and change the conversation. Because I don't know if you realize this, the only person that is going to change your world and reality is you. So let's dive in. Dana Obelman. All right, Dana, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
This is actually a conversation I haven't had on the show yet or in a really long time. Sleep is one of those things that people need to know about when they become a parent. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. It touches everyone.
So you are the founder of Sleepsense, correct? You've been doing this for a long time.
Yes, I've been doing this for 16 years.
Okay, so you would probably consider yourself really confident that you can handle any sleep situation or coach a family through any sleep situation.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty 100% confident around that. Yep.
So I want to dig deeper into this because I'm sure there's a lot of limiting beliefs and resistance that families have when it comes to sleep. In my coaching practice, I help a lot of women and parents, if they come to me with a pain point around parenting, but I kind of take like a holistic life approach. But sleep is often one of those things that's driving them crazy. And there is this cultural expectation, which I'm all about breaking cultural expectations. You're going to have children. Don't expect to sleep for 18 plus years.
Yes.
So I'm curious your beliefs, your thoughts on this, and what got you into it.
Well, I had a son, my first son, who's now 18. I had him, and I had those same expectations that I was going to be this awesome mom, and I'm a perfectionist in recovery, I like to say. So I had this vision that, I was going to do everything right. And I can remember what I like to call my rock bottom moment with him. He was about 5.5 months, and he was what I would describe as a terrible sleeper, barely napped for more than 20 minutes and up all night. And I was at 3 o'clock in the morning, just sobbing my head off on the couch. And my husband came out, and I'm like, I can't do it. I just, like, maybe I lack the gene, this mom gene that I see other women have, where, you're just supposed to grin and bear this thing. And I don't have it, maybe, or I'm flawed in some way, but I can't take this anymore. Like, this is it. This is my last night. I can't take it. And in that moment, we made this little promise to each other that we would try to see if there was something we could do. I mean, maybe there really was a solution to his sleeping issues. And so that very next day, I did what I had said I would do, and I started researching and grabbing books and reading everything I could get my hands on about how to potentially teach a baby to sleep well. And the good news is and was that there were things you could do. There were steps you could take to teach a child the skills they need to sleep well. And it was so transformational. I mean, my whole relationship with my son changed, and my relationship with myself was better because I was feeling, like I felt in control. I felt like I had some of my freedom back, and sleep is, it's a necessity, right? It's one of the necessary components of a healthy life. So it was so life-changing that really from that point on, I just couldn't stop myself from telling everyone I could get my hands on that there was good news, that you didn't have to struggle and suffer and sacrifice your own health just because you chose to become a mother.
Ooh, okay. That last part is where you got me. Yeah. You didn't have to sacrifice. Here's the interesting part. I'm always curious. From a young age, I was always curious why people do what they do and why one person, quote unquote, succeeds when the other one doesn't. And listening to your story, Dana, you were describing how you were determined to solve this problem, and you just started researching possibilities, right? Researching and becoming obsessed with the topic, and then asking yourself, okay, and implementing, obviously. There's a difference. I call it, well, I did not coin this term, but I've heard the current term spiritual entertainment, where people are learning about these practices, but they're not implementing them.
Right.
And when you start implementing, this is where, oh gosh, this is where the magic happens. And I'm laughing because this is where the real work happens. All of your stuff comes up. I was asking you before I hit record, I was telling you that I'm a huge advocate of emotional intelligence and helping people feel in control of their big emotions and children. And there's this primal thing that happens when your child is crying. You want to rescue them. And I know, raising 3 boys who are now 15, 10, and 7, sleep has been one of those shit shows in our house. And I know I'm not alone when I say that. And a lot of I can reflect back, and a lot of our sleep stuff was because of me, because I had this like intense guilt or lack of worthiness or good enoughness that if I wasn't doing it properly, or if I allowed my child to cry too little or too much, I was going to screw them up somehow. So this is deep. This is deep, deep stuff. So how do you start working with families that come to you and they're just lost?
Oh, that is such a great question. And it's one that I've been dealing with for the past 16 years. And I think you're exactly right that as a parent, our job is to protect and nurture and support and raise these children in the best possible way we can. And some areas get muddy, don't they? Like, it gets a little confusing. And I think when we're talking about teaching a child to sleep well, this is a huge area that's very gray for a lot of parents out there. But, when I think about going back to my own experience, I was not thriving. I was not doing well, and our family was not doing well. My relationship with my partner was strained. My relationship with Charlie, my son, was strained. And so when you think about, your ideal vision or what you want out of life, I'm a big believer in trying to live my best life and noticing that this is not my best life. And I always tell my parents, that's where you start. You reached out for a reason. You searched online for a reason. You must have known in the moment that things were not going so well.
Yeah.
And so you have to start there and then realize this is something we're doing for our child, not doing to our child. We're not punishing him or her, by trying to teach them a skill for sleeping well. I believe sleep is a skill, and I will. If that's my dying, the last words that come out of my dying mouth, that's like, I believe sleep is a skill. And so learning a skill is hard, right? Like any new skill set, it's challenging, and there's days where you don't want to, and you have to force yourself and push yourself and really work towards it. And so for kids, the same is true. They're not going to just dive into this, open-heartedly and agreeably and just learn a skill without a little bit of pushback. And that's why you're going to get some crying is mainly, to let you know, hey, I don't know how to do this without all that extra help that you've been giving me. I'm just letting you know that, this is a tough place for me to be right now. And sure, we can validate that as accurate. But, right, we're doing this for the common good of the family. And, the long-term benefits of a child sleeping well really, in my opinion, completely outweigh the few nights it takes to start establishing a skill set.
Agree. So much that you just said around changing the stories in our minds, like this is a skill. I know anything that I have personally made a commitment or investment into, meaning, especially in the last 6 years of transforming my health, any fitness program, any nutrition program, it always goes back to hydration and sleep. Right?
Right.
And our children, I believe sometimes they just say it louder than us, but we experience resistance as well. As humans, we don't like change, right? And we're recording this in the middle of the pandemic. I'm sure sleep patterns are way off. I know my children are going to bed later. We've gotten into some weird habits. Some are not disruptive and some are annoying, right? So I could reinstill boundaries and, get back on track with that. And then school, right? School's coming, some people are home education, like such an important time to really look at our sleep if this is a foundational thing. And I do believe oftentimes people will look at the symptoms. So they'll say, okay, I didn't get enough sleep, which is quote unquote socially acceptable because I don't have enough time. And a lot of the women that I attract to are trying to better themselves in other aspects of their lives. So they use sleep as the thing that they're taking away in order to add to their life. And I'm like, no, it's actually taking away from the quality of your life. So if you make sleep a priority, plus you look at the other things you're doing, with the rest of your 24 hours in the day, and prioritize high quality actions, you're going to completely revamp your whole life. But sometimes we can't just start there. We have to start with these little baby steps and get the biggest boulders out of the way. So Dana, let's dive into the uncomfortable conversations that you have to have with parents once you start this process with you. I was watching your video that you did. It's kind of like the case study that you did on Good Morning America. Mm-hmm. And what I really enjoyed about that, so that's on your website, people can go check it out. what I really enjoyed about that is it kind of showed, real live footage of what it looked like, not just, oh, I took this program and my life is now changed, which is oftentimes what the media portrays.
Mm-hmm.
It was, yeah, we had some really sleepless nights at the beginning, and there's regression, and then things change, but it's a commitment. So I guess if someone's listening and they're like, okay, besides your program, which we'll talk about that too, what do people do? And where do they start? Like, is there different levels of expectations of like, this is the phases you're going to go through?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the first step is just being brave enough to say, I would like to fix this, right? I think one of the things that has always driven me crazy is this idea that mothers in particular have to make a sleep sacrifice because they had children. And I just think that that's A, not true, and B, super unfair to the mom, right? Like,
yeah.
It's unfair to expect yourself to, have 3 hours of sleep every night and function well and be the best self that you can be. I mean, it's just unrealistic and crazy, really, to expect that of yourself. So it needs to start from a place of getting okay with, hey, I would like this baby to sleep well, right? I would like this child to stay in their own bed. I would like these things for all of us, right? And including yourself, and that is absolutely fair. And then, yeah, you're going to have to reach out and look for help. And it might be my program. I mean, there's many programs on the market. You find one that speaks to you or resonates with you, and you have to do the work, right? It's not magic. And if anyone tells you they've got a magic solution, it's not true. It's not magical. It's a process. It's a skill set. And I think if you can focus on that, I always like to use the analogy of teaching my children how to swim. The skill of learning to swim is theirs to master. But as their parent, I can, get them lessons. I can expose them to situations where they can practice their skill. I can cheer them on. I can encourage them. I give them all the opportunities to learn how to swim, but the actual skill of swimming is theirs to master. And I don't expect perfection in one trip to the pool. I realize that this takes time and practice and confidence, and all of these things play a role in learning to swim. And I think the same is true with sleep. You cannot expect in 2 nights that a child's going to go from, bottle feeding themselves to sleep 6 times a night to sleeping right through. You're going to have progress. It's going to get a little bit better in some area as the days go on. And you really need to keep your eye on the prize, which is that all of you will be getting, relatively consistent sleep. I don't think anything in parenting is ever perfect, but you should be, doing 90% better than you are currently doing.
Awesome. Is this a newborn, toddler, small child issue, or do you also support families with older children or adults themselves?
Yeah, it's been a really incredible journey, because when I started, I didn't see very many people with newborns. But I think now that sleep has become more of a popular topic, we are seeing more and more people reach out, even in the pregnancy phase. And I love that, because I think there are actually some education pieces around sleep that if I can teach you while you're pregnant with this baby, I'm going to set you up for great success right out of the gate. So I think that there's, if we just know a little bit better, we do better. And so I love that. And on the other side of the spectrum, we are seeing more and more parents kind of raise their hands and say, I've got an 8-year-old who's still sleeping in our bed. Again, because sleep has become such a hot topic, and we just know so much more about, the side effects of not sleeping well for children all the way through to adulthood, that more and more people are reaching out for help. So the good news is I don't think it's ever too late. And I don't really think it's ever too soon to start teaching a child to sleep well. And we do actually go all the way into adults.
I love that. So if you say sleep is a skill which I love that perspective because a lot of adults do not even practice that as a skill. I'm sure you're familiar with Ariana Huffington.
Yes. Yeah.
And I love her just bold approach around getting up from a dinner table or wherever she is at 9 p.m. I believe that's what she does. And she will just say, I'm going to bed. I've had really good boundaries around that. People have looked at me like I have 25 heads. I'd rather go to sleep early and wake up early. And people can't comprehend or understand. And I'm like, you don't understand the quality of your life until you have tried it, until you've developed a habit or a skill. What do you think the mindset is that somebody gains from developing good sleep habits, and how that trickles, or what maybe a story that you've witnessed from a family that has been successful and how you've noticed that change other areas of their lives?
Well, I think the good news is when you start to see the payoff, right? You have to suspend your disbelief at the beginning, but once you get a little taste for how it feels to sleep well, and one of the very sort of strict pieces of the program is getting your children on a good bedtime routine and bedtime, and staying consistent with that, even on weekends. If she needs to be in bed by 7, she's got to be in bed by 7 every night. And once they see the payoff of that, having that little piece of evening back is huge for parents, to have a little bit of alone time or partner time, just eat a meal while it's still hot, all of that great stuff that shows up when your kids are on a great schedule. And the boundaries and the structure that we put in place in this bedtime piece, it does actually start to trickle over into other areas. I think for parents, when they see that, actually having a few boundaries in place around bedtime, maybe we could start putting a few boundaries in place about screen time or or behavior at the dinner table time.
Yes.
It does start to trickle over once you see the payoffs. And I think for adults too, I'm hoping, I'm like you, I'm very, very strict with my own self about my bedtime and my routine and what I need to have in place to have good quality sleep most nights. Then I hope that is something that they also then model, because right, a lot of parenting is modeling the behaviors we want to see show up. So if you can instill it in your children and then use it on yourself, you'll notice a big improvement in your own sleep as well.
I love that. I do have good sleep boundaries. The one thing I need to get better at is the screen time. Yes. In the bedroom. That is become a crutch. Yes, that has become a crutch and something that does not feel good to me, but I need to get it out of the bedroom.
Yeah. No one has a TV in their bedroom at my house.
Yeah. It's not the TV, it's the damn phones or an
the
iPad.
Phone. Yeah.
So my phone goes in the other room. I will hear people say, I can't put it in the other room. It's my alarm. And I'm like, right. Go buy an old alarm. Like, I still have an old crappy alarm. I even have one of those sun alarms, that looks like the sun is rising. I'm like, there are ways you can get a different alarm clock. It's the addiction to the cell phone.
You're right. Yeah, you can get a $10 alarm clock off Amazon. It'll be at your house today, probably, if you ordered it now.
You could probably knock on your neighbor's door and get an alarm clock. But there is something I notice when I'm resting there. My rest is associated with my phone now, which is awful. Like if I'm resting, lying down. So I'm trying to shift it because I journal a lot. So I will just have pen and paper and kind of just giving my mind something to do instead of being on my phone.
Yeah, it's great. I always say, especially I would say this for everybody. And if you can stay away from a screen an hour before bedtime, and I know that that's a lot for some people, but an hour would be optimal to stay away from screens before bed.
Yeah, I do try
to create a little ritual with the kids, but it's usually me that has my phone in there, which is not good. So after this conversation,
yay,
I'm getting back on track. But yeah, the kids, depending on the child and their needs, but my son will be reading, the little one will be drawing of sorts. And then the oldest, we're usually just chatting it up or something. But creating that sacred time is so, so essential to our health.
It really is.
So Dana, how can people, if they're listening to this and they're like, I need this woman, I need her in my life. How can they start working with you? How does that work? And what's their next steps?
Yeah, well, just check out the website. It's sleepsense.net. And you can try either the do-it-yourself option, or we have Sleepsense consultants all over the globe who can work one-on-one with you if that feels better.
That's amazing. Yeah, the website is very clear, and it asks you like the age of your child and everything very step by step, which is amazing because if you're attracting sleep deprived parents, we need to make it simple.
Yes, I agree.
What I love about this conversation, Dana, is you give people hope, one, from your own story and being that role model. There is no sugarcoating. It's work, right? We have to put effort into this. We're sold so many magic pills. And once you kind of get rid of that mindset, I'm not a fan of we can do hard things, because I truly believe the act is not hard. It is the feeling. It's uncomfortable. So we can do uncomfortable things. But if you're not uncomfortable from the lack of sleep that you're getting, that should tell you something. We can sit in our discomfort temporarily, and feel it in order to get to the place where we want to be, which is good night's sleep and better quality of life.
Absolutely.
So Dana, thank you so much for this conversation. And I'm excited to get my phone out of my bedroom.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been great.
Well, that's it. And I wanted to thank you for listening today because I truly believe you are exactly where you need to be. And now I have a favor to ask. In exchange for the value you've gained from this free podcast, I'd be forever grateful if you would leave us a review on iTunes. Share the show with at least one woman in your life who you feel would benefit, and or take a screenshot and share it on social media. And always feel free to tag me at Heather Chauvin. The world does not benefit from your guilt and fatigue. The world needs more women who are willing to unlearn everything they've been taught. Women who are courageous enough to feel good and not let guilt run the show. I believe you are that courageous woman. To see if my community and coaching is the right fit for you and your big vision, the relationships you desire, the money, time, energy that you know deep down you are capable of creating, then head on over to heatherchauvin.com/work with me. That's Heather Chauvin, CHAUVIN.com/work with me. And take the next step in the right direction. Taking a stand for how you feel means you are taking a stand for how your children show up as adults. And if you have a personal question or topic you'd like me to answer on the podcast, text me 313-710-5199. 313-710-5199. You are so worthy of feeling good. Now go do some scary shit.